Hi, everyone. This is Jane Taft the Sage and our new guest, Olivia Angeli, the Farmers Market Guru, on today's Lipstick Leadership Podcast show. You will notice that I am missing my other half, Deanna Vestal, your career catalyst, had to call out on an emergency today. So best wishes and prayers for her getting her issues resolved. But we are here back on the scene talking about nutrition. We're continuing our conversation on mindset and health, and this is the third in the series. So we're finally getting around to nutrition, and so we are so excited to welcome Olivia to the show. Hi, Olivia.
Hello, Jane. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
I am so glad to reconnect with you. You and I have known each other for a while and then didn't talk for a while. And when we reconnected, it was practically like we didn't lose any time. And I love that.
Absolutely.
I loved catching up with you. And I'm so glad you're able to make time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we get into everything juicy about who Olivia is, what the Farmers Market Guru has to offer, let's talk about what is the L3P community. The Lipstick Leadership Legacy podcast is hosted by two sassy, intelligent, tell it like it is women here from the Sacramento, California area. We dish about culture, women in leadership, current events, and any other juicy topics that affect the leadership experience. Our goal is to really inform, entertain, and evoke curiosity, hoping to inspire you to have provocative conversations in the workplace, among your friends, and with your loved ones. We don't want you to keep these topics to yourself. Now that we got you thinking about it, we want you to have those conversations. And so here we are talking about nutrition. And I have Olivia, who is the Farmers Market Guru. Olivia, I know you spell the name of your company very uniquely. Tell us how it's spelled.
So it's spelled PHARMERSMARKETGURU.
Yeah.
And I spell it farmers with the PH because our pharmacy should come from our food, is my belief. So I came up with that. I had many different ideas, but I really liked the way that sounded.
Yeah. And I really like it. I love that it evokes the idea of a pharmacy and food as medicine.
Yes.
Right? You and I had lengthy conversations about that. I really like that. And you do believe food is medicine, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I've had many situations where I've introduced people to different foods, and it has changed either their numbers, how they feel, how they sleep, how they rest, how vibrant they are during the day. So it does absolutely make a difference.
Yeah, and you can eliminate those numbers of pills that you take by simply having good nutrition. I love that about you. What I really love is your passion for nutrition, eating good food. How did you get into this business? How did you get into all of this?
So it really came about when I got very frustrated and angry at losing good people and people that I loved and cherished, and they were gone. And I figured there had to be a different way to do this. So I had a girlfriend at one point in time. I had a girlfriend, my very best girlfriend, my confidant, and I got a call that she had stage 4 breast, liver, lung cancer.
Wow.
And I said, absolutely not. I don't have time for this. I can't not have you around. So I went to her house and cleaned out her cupboards, her pantry, and her refrigerator. And we got in the car and we did some shopping. And I told her, I said, I put all the stuff that she was allowed to eat. So in my book, and I said, this is what you get to eat. This is what, like it, don't like it. I don't care. I mean, it was more on my part because I didn't want her gone. I didn't want her to suffer. And she was good. I mean, she juiced 3 times a day. She was actually, just she followed the protocol really well, and
Yeah.
she did really well for a very long time. We even went to Hawaii, and I was surprised. She brought all of her juice
See,
for
that's
7 days.
part of the story that cracks me up. She was not only totally submitting to you cleaning out her house and making her eat differently.
Right.
When you went on vacation, she was still committed. Now that is totally sold out for the program.
Yeah. And it was awesome because she was, I mean, the numbers were changing, the lesions were disappearing, they weren't as big as they were. So it works. I've watched it and I've seen it work. And that is where the passion comes from. It's more of, I had to take my anger and do something with it. And that's why when I work with people, sometimes I'm a little more passionate that they're ready for sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, but I share that with them in the beginning,
Yeah.
because I'm fighting for them and I take it on and I work with them as though, I'm with them side by side. I'm not just directing I'm with them. So I feel how they feel and I understand. And I think it makes it better for me because I have to humble myself and be in a position of vulnerability with them as they are with me.
Yeah. Wow. I absolutely love that story because your true love for your friend activated your passion for food as medicine. But how, you were this before her illness.
Yes.
And how did you get into this? Like, start at the beginning for us. Like, what really triggered your interest here? I don't know that I ever got that story.
Right. So as a young person, I've always been a caretaker, it seems. And I took care of my great grandfather who was 101 when he passed.
Wow.
And I took him from his daughter's home and I moved him in with myself and my grandmother, his daughter, and my sister. And to see an actual physical body be that age and still be able to function and work fascinated me.
Mm.
And, he grew up, he was born in 1896. So there wasn't any, grocery stores and there wasn't any drive-throughs. He grew up, the foundation of his body and his cell structure really was on real food.
Mm-hmm.
And and he never drove. He walked everywhere, which I'm sure was a huge part of his being able to live so long as well. But it fascinated me that there was an actual physical body that I knew and could touch and see that was viable and moving and working at that age.
Wow. So he was your initial inspiration to really say, how, how did he do it? How can I do it?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, and I figured that it was much deeper than what, I didn't know, but I knew there was something there. I knew there
Yeah.
was something.
So tell me the connection, so time goes by, you're building your interest. How did you make the connection to the farmers market and the farmers themselves? How did you start really saying, I could put this together in a totally different way?
Well, in school, I was in school for 18 months and, we talked a lot about food and nutrition and the importance of the body, the actual cell structure getting the nutrients because the cells are why we're able to live and breathe and do what we do. And as I was shopping, you go to the store and I'm like, well, where's this coming from?
Mm.
I mean, someone's growing it, but I don't know where it's coming from. And I was in a store one time and my sister just shakes her head. She still talks about this to this day. We were in a grocery store and there was a huge bin of garlic. And I was like, oh, I'll grab some because I need some.
Mhm.
Well, I picked it up and it was in the little mesh bags. And I flipped it over and it said product of China. And I was
Mm.
like, no, no, no. I asked to speak to a manager. And at that point, my sister's just like, oh my gosh, are you serious right now? Can we just not do this? I can't not though. I couldn't, I had to say something.
Mm.
And so I get a manager and he comes and I said, do you have a few minutes? Because I have a few questions. And he was, yes, absolutely. I said, if you were going to purchase garlic for your own personal self and you could get it from anywhere in the world, where would you get it? And he looks at me and he says, well, I would probably get it from Gilroy. I said, very good. So you're a smart man. I'm happy about this. Maybe you can explain to me how it is that there is this huge bin of garlic. It's from China, and you have a note on it that says fresh.
Mm.
That's not, I mean, it could be fresh from the boat. It can be fresh off of the boat. That's fresh, but fresh?
Right.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
And I figure, I'm one of those people, I think globally. I mean, I want my small things that I'm doing to make a bigger difference in everything that I do, I try, or everything that I do, that's how I try to be. And when I also realized that I can vote every day with where I put my dollar,
Mhm.
and to really understand the farmers and to know who they are and their stories. I have some farmers that are third, fourth generation.
Isn't that neat?
I love it. I absolutely love it. And to realize that there is so much more to the food when you buy it and you know the man, you know the people, and you know how they love the land and how they love their soil, and there's such a bigger connection to our food. It's just so different.
Yeah. And they say California is one of the biggest contributors to food in the nation. What do you know about that? And how do you feel about that as a Californian? Because I get excited every time I hear that.
It is. It's very exciting. And so when I do my farmers market tours, I do them at it's between X and Y downtown Sacramento underneath the overpass.
Ah,
And it actually is one of the biggest farmers market in the state.
mm,
Seasonal, sometimes like right now, there's a lot of farmers that are not there. But when everybody is there, oh my gosh, all my grocery shopping is done at the farmers market because
what's
I
the
don't
best
have,
season?
well, I live spring and summer because I love,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but every season has just a great option.
Mm,
Somebody said, well, do you get pineapple or bananas there? I'm like, no, those are not seasonal for this area. It's,
right.
and it gives me an opportunity to share with people eating local
Yeah.
and eating what's in season.
Yeah.
And you just have different opportunities for things that you're not usually privy to in the grocery store.
Hmm. Yeah. And that is so good, and especially now, considering we're all in this pandemic or COVID situation, it's even more important to shop local and support those small business owners. Farmers, for the large part, are not corporate farms.
No.
They're usually the mom and pop, multi-generational family farms that we're supporting when we go to farmers markets. So I really love your heart on that, and just what you're doing to educate people. Let me pause here and talk about a little bit about how else to get involved with the L3P community. So the Lipstick Leadership Legacy community. You might be listening to us on Buzzsprout. Catch us also on YouTube so you can hear us and see us. If you're catching us on YouTube, Remember, we have a podcast. You can take us with you wherever you go. And the new thing that we've created is our meetup community. And we have invited Olivia to publicize when she is doing the Farmers Market Guru tours. And so, you guys, we have a lot going on in the LP3 community through Meetup. And so, we want you to check all those places out. And we put it in our description boxes below if you're on YouTube or on the site of Buzzsprout. So back to this conversation with you, Olivia. It is getting so good because you have so many things you accomplish by your passion and interest with shopping local and food as medicine. What did you ever have any personal nutritional struggles that you've cured or alleviated with changing your nutritional mix?
Yes. So for a period of time, I did have, I would say more so like an inflammation pains, which a lot of us deal with.
Yes.
And, women issues. I didn't realize, because this was before I knew anything about nutrition, I didn't realize I was feeding the problem by what I was eating. I was eating, going through the drive-through and eating a lot of soy-based product that I had no idea. I didn't know what that, soy in the body and what it does. And especially for women in my situation at that point, I had no idea. I had no idea that, I thought I was eating soup to help me feel better. Well, it was filled with MSG. I was just adding to the problem and actually giving myself more problems, migraines and that kind of thing. So when I was able to really see that, and I didn't see it until I was much older and wasn't really doing those kinds of things anymore, but I think about it and I was like, wow, I wish somebody would have said or knew. I don't even know that anybody knew at that time or did, but nobody I knew. To give this young girl an opportunity to actually do something different. And I think that's another reason why I do this, because there's so many young people that don't know, and I want them to know. It's exciting to have young people know and understand it, and then the people that they get to communicate with and their peers, and they're not, oh no, I don't eat that. And then it opens up a huge opportunity. Why aren't you eating those things? Everybody else is eating it.
Right.
And it's such a great opportunity. So I get really excited when there's young people that are learning and interested.
Yeah. And, I really think the younger generations are super interested in it. They just don't know where to get credible information. And what we thought were credible sources like the medical community, even they are behind the 8 ball as far as true whole food nutrition. You would have to see a specialist, like a nutritionist, dietitian. Unfortunately, I have those both in my family, but the conversation, I think the greater thing that both Deanna and I talk about a lot with physical, mental issues intergenerationally is we just don't talk about those things.
Right.
Our parents didn't talk about it with us. And so, although we have desire in our generation, we don't even know where to start, except to say we're bumbling around in the dark too. And this is what I figured out so far.
Right.
Right. I love that you have a heart to educate. You have a heart for the community as a whole, to keep that farmers community economically running, and you want to educate. And so I really, really love that. Talking about inflammation, because when women of a certain age, let's just say it like that, we deal with inflammation and it affects all kinds of things in our body, right? And so if you can, for just a few minutes, talk about inflammation, the things that you know about inflammation as it pertains to women's health, knowing that you're not a doctor, you're not a dietitian, and all of those great disclaimers that we want to put out there. You are certified, so talk about your certifications first, and then we'll talk about inflammation specifically.
Okay. So I am a holistic health practitioner, and I am also a Institute of Nutritional Health coach. And I've recently just received my certification for natural eye health coach. So I've got a few. Not only am I an educator, I love to be educated. So I'm constantly
Love it.
looking for different places to find new information.
Love it.
Inflammation is usually the beginning of a lot of sickness and disease, and we don't realize that. So it's good to try to get it before it turns into an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it can be brought on by food. Stress
Mm-hmm.
is also another indicator of inflammation, but the sugars and the pastas and the rices, people don't understand when I've said, I ask people, do you eat, pasta? Oh yeah. And I said, well, that's turning into sugar in the body, but it's pasta. I'm like, exactly. But the molecular breakdown of what the body does changes it into a sugar, and the body will then react as sugar. So I just try to share things with people that are better options and different things that they can do to, maybe they're not cutting out all of their sugar, but if they have a few different ideas of what they can do, maybe it'll make just a little bit of a difference to a point where now they're like, oh, well, wait a minute, I like what I'm feeling now. Maybe if I do this other 2 more things or whatever it is, what else do you have for me that I can introduce into my body and into my processes that I do that will make a difference in what my body is doing?
Right. Because there's nothing like feeling good to change your mind about eating.
Amen.
Right.
Yes.
Or on the other side, there's nothing like feeling bad to be motivated to look at different options.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of people, they feel like they don't have any hope,
right.
And it's sad because, and that's why I think what part of my passion too is I'm excited to tell them there's other options.
Yeah. And it's not like, so I hear that you are a fantastic cook, like not just okay, but like fantastic. And you yourself, in our conversations, you eat all kinds of food as well.
Oh, yes.
But you have a standard for the food. It has to be real food.
Correct.
So at the risk of being simplistic, tell us what is not real food.
Well, so there's they've got meats that are not meat. And some of them, depending, and this is the thing, it's, people say, oh, well, it says low fat or low calorie. Flip it around and see what the ingredients are, because that's actually what you're eating. The numbers don't really matter. If the body understands it, I explain to people, the body is like a computer. With a computer, you have to put the right code in for it to do A, B, C.
Sure.
The body does the same thing. So if you're putting, chemically made something, the body doesn't understand it and then doesn't really know what to do with it and how to utilize it. And now it's kind of a toxin in the body, and it turns into a whole nother thing that the body just can't utilize. Oh, this has to go over here in the muscle structure and get rid of the rest. So it's a new way of thinking for many. And it's like me, I eat pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But
what are some no-nos for Olivia? Like, no, that's not going in my body.
Yeah, so I don't cook with canola oil. I don't eat anything that has canola oil. Carrageenan
Okay.
Canola oil is a synthetic oil.
Mm-hmm.
So again, now we're going to put a synthetic and want the body to do something.
Yeah.
And it turns carcinogenic um, when you heat it. And
Mm,
actually, a lot of the stuff that's in the states that they allow in our food system isn't allowed in Europe and in other
I heard
countries.
that. I heard
Even,
that there's like a list of 17 specific things.
yeah, even the fast food.
Mm,
Like you can get ketchup at a McDonald's in the UK that is tomatoes and like you understand the ingredients, and then you get ours and there's like 15 different ingredients and none of them say tomato.
right. Right.
So, my meats I eat are my beef is grass fed.
Mm,
I get it from my farmer.
hmm.
That's what I love. I get my meat, it's from the farmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, my eggs, I do eat eggs, but my eggs are pasture raised, so they are out digging in the dirt and looking for bugs and worms and in the manure, and they're eating
Yeah.
from I mean,
In the
that's
natural.
yeah, but when you crack an egg that I have, it looks like the sun. It's
Yeah.
beautiful and the taste is amazing.
Right.
um, Good water.
Hmm.
I personally, I'm blessed to not have to, I don't drink out of a plastic. I don't have plastic in my house.
Mm,
I've had plastic wrap that I've probably had for 7 years because I don't use it.
mm,
Very rarely in a pinch of some sort, but I
yeah.
haven't even used it in that long.
Yeah.
So I don't have a microwave in my home.
Right. That blew me away. I was like, girl, now you are over the edge.
Well,
But you know what? You're living your truth. I
and
appreciate
yeah,
that.
and when I realized when I understood what it did to the food, I was like, well, then why would I pay the amount of money that I'm paying for my food and then put it in the microwave and do what it was doing anyway? So I could just get it at the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Or
and
reheat it the traditional way.
well,
Right.
somebody said to me the other day, I said, you had a full cup of coffee, but you want another cup, but you threw the one you had away. And he said, well, there's no microwave to heat it. And I said, but I can heat it on the stove in 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. Like I
Right.
can probably heat it faster on the stove than I can heat it in a microwave.
Yeah. And definitely more safely, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just a new way of looking at things. We're
Right.
not we've gotten so used to just putting it in a box and pushing the button and then it's heated.
Right.
And it wasn't always like that.
Yeah. You talked about soy too. Is that a no-no for you or sometimes in this form? Talk about soy.
So soy happens to be one of the most pesticide sprayed and genetically modified crops in our
Mm,
country. So I really try to stay away from it.
got it.
Um, if we're talking about the edamame, and it's an organic form of the edamame, the actual bean,
Yeah.
um, I might eat a few of those.
Hmm.
But for the most part, it it scares me a little bit,
Mm,
just
got it.
because of the chemicals and the pesticides and genetically modified. And people say, well, genetically modified food isn't that bad, and I'm like, well, but it does, because it does change when it gets into our body. It genetically changes what our body is supposed to be doing.
Right. And we ingest food every day.
Yes.
So it has a high probability of accumulating toxins in the body. So I
Yes.
understand that. You are the first person to actually say very succinctly why they choose not to have soy.
Hmm.
So thank you for that. I'm sure our listeners are hearing all kinds of gems and nutritional tidbits from you. I'm going to pause again here. We are having such a good conversation, Olivia. I,
Yes.
again, am so glad you're here. Um, just want to tell our listeners again, next week is book discussion day. Next Thursday, the last Thursday, or rather fourth Thursday every month, and this happens to be January 28th, we have our book discussion meetings. And this month, it happens to be Mindset by Carol Dweck. Very good foundational book as far as understanding growth mindset versus fixed mindset. I really anticipate having a great conversation that evening. And if you want to join us again, go to our meetup and find the date, the time, and all the information there. And um, I don't know about you. I love to read. I love that, Olivia, you're saying, I love to learn and I love to inform other people too. So let's get back to our discussion. I promised Olivia, and this is for our audience, that I would ask her some swap outs because we're all standing in our kitchens eating what we eat right now. So Olivia, make it easy for our listeners. What can we do? 3 to 5 swap outs, exchanges to be more nutritionally sound and better to our bodies. What are your tips?
So the first one I thought of was quinoa
Yeah.
instead of rice. And you actually can use quinoa as a breakfast, like in a hot cereal.
Yeah.
So I make a pot of plain quinoa and I'll use it throughout the week as my fast food. So if I have some pico de gallo or salsa and I want like a Spanish rice real quick, I just throw that in with the pico and now I've got a Spanish rice. And if I want a hot cereal, I get some cinnamon and my cream and stuff and put that in there and I've got a hot cereal. The body understands the quinoa as a broccoli and not necessarily a grain. So it doesn't
Really?
change. Doesn't
Wow.
change the glycemic index. Another thing I love, love, love is zucchini noodles.
Okay, I like the zoodles.
Yes, yes, those are awesome. And another thing that I do is that I will use either the dino kale, which is the very thin, dark green kale, not the one that has the fringes, but the flat kale.
The big, hard, crunchy ones.
Yeah, right, the bitter ones. But the other ones are very tender. And I'll use that or romaine lettuce leaves as my tortillas if I'm making tacos.
Wow.
Or if I'm making like a burger, and then the lettuce becomes my bun, or my salad,
wrapper.
or my sandwich. Yeah, it becomes my wrap. Also, I like to add, instead of adding salt, well, of course you want a good salt to start with, but instead of adding more salt, add some spices. Add some turmeric, some oregano, some rosemary, some, even green onions or cilantro or parsley. People don't realize that stuff has so much flavor in it, but not only the flavor is that it adds the nutrients to it. If I have a bowl of soup, I put a handful of cilantro, parsley, and green onions just because I can. And if I have lettuce, I'll put that in there too. Yes. Lettuce in your soup? Yes. Adds a little crunch.
Yeah. 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 So let me pause and interrupt for a second. So you said good salt. What's good salt?
So like a sea salt.
Okay.
Sea salt, Himalayan pink salt. So sea salts have about 92 different minerals in them. Himalayan salts, I want to say, is about 40 something, 45, somewhere in that neighborhood. But you want to have a salt that has those minerals in it. When you get just an iodized salt at the store that you buy, and your salt should look wet. It should look gray a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The other salts, you have doctors that say don't eat too much salt because it's bad for your heart and all of this other stuff. But if you have a regular salt, first of all, it tastes it is more pungent in flavor because of all of the minerals that it has.
Mm-hmm.
So the body's able then to utilize it. When you have an iodized salt that's bleached out and everything's stripped from it,
mm-hmm.
Now you just have one mineral in there and you can taste the difference. I did a taste test with my mom. She said, it's not different. I said, okay, taste this one. This was her, just regular salt.
Yeah.
I said, now taste this one. And she got this look on her face like, oh my gosh, what is all that? I said, you're tasting all the minerals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I had an acupuncturist have me make a soup with only sea salt rather than regular salt. And
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you, you only need a little sea salt
Yeah.
to give it a punch of flavor. And I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ever since I switched, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible flavor.
And
You
you
are
can't go
correct.
back.
Yeah. Yeah, because
You can't.
table salt does not taste good. It
Mm-mm.
tastes like nothing.
Well, and then you can almost taste the chemical part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our taste buds, we've inundated our taste buds with so many poisons and toxins and pesticides and just stuff that we don't even know what we're tasting anymore. And when
Right.
you actually change what you eat, you can actually start tasting actual food. I had a client one time, and I got him off of the sugar, and he thought on the fourth day, well, I've been doing so good, I'm gonna have a root beer float. Apparently he was having one every day, but I didn't know that. Um, well, he went to have a root beer float on the fourth day of not eating any sugar, and he couldn't eat it. He said he could taste the chemicals in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not somebody that is one of those people that believes right away and you can, no.
A big skeptic. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but for him to realize and taste the difference was, one, it just confirmed what I already knew, but for his taste buds to change that quickly, the body always wants to heal.
Yeah.
Its natural state is to always heal. We
Mhm.
just have to give it the right things to do that, to do its job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that. Any other swap outs? You gave us 4 good ones. They're
Let's
delicious swap
see.
outs.
Oh, and then instead of like mayo, add mustard. And
I
there's
love
so
mustard.
many different types of mustards. You've got so many options, which I love mustard.
Yeah, mustard is tasty. And don't be
Yes.
getting that little yellow stuff.
Right.
Get the grainy stuff.
Yes. Well, and even the mustard, the mustard will have yellow number 5 in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just, now they're kind of catching on, and I've found ones that instead of yellow number 5, they use turmeric, which is much better.
Yeah.
And it doesn't change the flavor.
Yeah.
So,
I love
yeah.
it. Olivia, you've given us a lot to think about or a lot to chew on. And I really enjoyed having you on today, really because nutrition is so very important. And it's true that our eating habits have depleted how well we feel inside. And so, any last thoughts for our community, things you really want them to be encouraged by about eating well? Any last thoughts from you, Olivia, before we close out here?
It seems like a huge task to take on when you want to change what you're eating. And I remember I was there, but it makes such a difference when you have somebody that can kind of guide you through that process and cheer you on and understand where you're at different times in your journey to health. And that's why I love what I do, because to watch people come from one place struggling to the end and really be just a completely different person. The body always wants to heal. We just have to remind it which tool, or give it the tools that it needs.
I love when you say that the body wants to heal.
Yeah.
That is juicy. That is
Yes.
juicy. Thank you so much, Olivia, the farmer's market guru. So the bottom line from today's show is this: your health is your wealth.
Amen.
There is no one here who can take care of it but you. Bryant McGill, a human potential thought leader, international best-selling author, activist, and social entrepreneur, says, health is priceless wealth.
Mhm.
Invest while you can.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yes.
say everything accumulates. What you do when you're young, you pay for when you're older. And I am certainly feeling that because I'm a woman of a certain age. Our sneak peek for next week. Our topic for next week, we are continuing our last topic on health and mindset with You Glow Girl, a discussion on health and beauty. Thank you so much for tuning into the Lipstick Leadership Legacy podcast this week. This is Jane Pass the Stage and
Olivia Angeli, your farmer's market guru.
May your lipstick stay fresh and your attitude stay sassy. See you next time.
Bye, guys.